I'd like to congratulate everybody on a spirited performance of June's monthly service. I'm sure that Kami-sama is very, very happy and pleased with that. But now we'd like to go to the sermon for today, of which Bishop has kindly assigned to me to give. Today I would like to read from this very, very enlightening book. It's called Mind That Attracts Happiness. Okay, so toward a joyous tomorrow. The Fudesaki says, the reason Tsukihi began human beings was the desire to see you lead a joyous life. God created humankind and the world with the intention of enjoying, seeing humans live the joyous life. Therefore, the joyous life is the purpose of human existence. In order to fulfill this purpose as soon as possible, God became openly revealed in the world and has taught the truth of origin of all things. We are told, quote, if you go through life listening to the voice of the parent, you will be guided through any situation. There is nothing frightening or dangerous about your journey, for God will guide you along the way. This is a path where God gives a teaching which humans are to implement. We should not only listen to the teachings of the parent, but put them into practice. Only then can we be said to be walking the path while holding on to the rope, which leads to a bright and joyous future. In November of 1885, when Isaburo Masui visited the residence, Oyasama apparently said to him, God responds to the simplicity and openness with which you accept the voice of the parent, and it is when you hear it. If you think this and that about what you hear based on human thinking, hearing the parent's voice will get you nowhere, no matter how many times you may hear it. Once again, God responds to the simplicity and openness with which you, Isaburo Masui, accept the voice of the parent as it is when you hear it. However, if you think this and that about what you hear based on human thinking, hearing the parent's voice will get you nowhere, no matter how many times you may hear it. You need to have true sincerity when you hear the parent's voice. That true sincerity is the simplicity and openness of your heart of accepting God as the truth. You need to have true sincerity when you hear the parent's voice. If you think that the parent's voice is unreliable, you render it unreliable. The parent's voice and God's voice are the same. Do not worry. God will guide you. It is often said that simple openness is what God wants us to have. We must not forget that a prerequisite for receiving God's free and unlimited workings is a simple openness with which to accept Oyasama's teachings as God's teachings and implement them according to the divine directions. To understand the teachings only theoretically is the same as being in the dark. If you understand the teaching theoretically, but do not understand the truth behind whatever presents itself each day, this will not do, will not do, will not do. I have entertained you with the teachings of the parent, the teachings of Oyasama. If you understand the teachings theoretically, but do not understand the truth behind whatever presents itself each day, there is no knowing when the sluice will begin to crumble or collapse. I had to look up the word sleuth. I didn't know what that was. It says, it's a sliding gate for controlling the volume or flow of water in the stream. Quite visual, isn't it? So, the importance of faith and implementation. Merely admiring the teachings does not constitute following the path. Merely adoring the teachings takes us nowhere if we do nothing else. Only when we put the teachings into practice in the course of our daily life can we regard ourselves as genuinely following the path. God the Parent teaches us only things that will help and benefit all human beings and never anything that will make us suffer, as can be seen from this divine direction. Quote, God's talk is not such that it will cause you difficulty when you gather together afterwards. We can rest assured that we can accept the Parent's teachings with ease and confidence and implement them with a fresh and clear mind. The practice of the path is all about putting the Parent's teachings into actual practice while trusting in the Parent. God says in the Mikagura Ota, the Songs for the Service, though I have spoken such severe words, it is because of my haste to save you. Even instructions that at first sound harsh embody God's desire to save us quickly. The verse leads me to reflect on the importance of trusting and implementing God's teachings. It is said that one day Oya-sama told Isaburo Yamamoto, if someone speaks ill of you, you should worship that person from behind. Then the person will help remove your causality, and you will be indebted to him or her. Do you know how difficult that's to do? Somebody badmouths you. The first thing, anger. And get even more, man, you're just upset. But instead of that, you look at that person as a savior to cut off your causality. When you think of it in that sense, it's very humbling. And you can go over and forgive and thank the person because it's actually benefiting you. In fact, I went through that experience. And the person has always been dogging me. I'm the cause of whatever, such and such in his life. Up until then, it really got me upset. I didn't get angry because that's not what you intended to do. There's nowhere near what you were wanting the final results. But then, after all these years, I was finally able to come to grips and say, you know, I'm going to pray for him. And I'm going to thank him for allowing me not to become angry, but learn how to take that in a positive manner, in a way we both can be saved. And it was amazing. The calmness that came right after that. It was just for a split second, but it was so calming, so serene. I couldn't believe what was happening. I haven't been able to do that again, but that first one, it was great. I'm still working on the next one. I'm sure God's going to give me plenty of chances to work on that. But anyway, getting back to what he wrote. It would be difficult for us to worship someone who has spoken ill of us, yet apparently early followers accepted and carried out Oya-sama's instructions straightforwardly. Boy, that's a big difference right there. Their attitude, which sets an important example for us, leads me to reflect critically on myself. We read in the divine directions, quote, all of you, there is a truth called the teachings. Because you do not follow the path in conformity with the teachings, the clear path becomes filthy. Because you all go out of your way to seek out a path that is hard to follow, things are impossibly difficult. Sa, over time I have been teaching you. I have been teaching you, and when you hear what I say, you seem to understand and be convinced of it. Yet, as days pass, you start doing things based on selfishness. If you do things based on selfishness, there will be days when you are inattentive. Because of such days, things can become difficult. We certainly do not mean to take God's teachings lightly or ignore them. However, although we feel that the teachings make so much sense when we hear them, after a while there can be times when inattention causes us to deviate from the teachings or forget about them. That is why we are told that our inattention, which may come from selfishness, can make things difficult. Falling into selfish behavior is like going out of your way to try to find a route that leads to a dead end. Think of that. Don't get angry anymore. Again, according to the divine directions, all you need is to settle the truth of convincing insight. What is that? God is providing for you sufficiently. No matter what you may imagine, that is the truth. If you receive the truth of the parent in all matters, the same clear skies are there at all times. I tell you. It is important for us to be aware that this path is indeed the truth path taught directly by God. The path that embodies the ultimate teachings that will bring a settling to the world. And to take pride and joy in this path as we implement the truth of the teachings and follow the path ourselves. This is the part of chapter 2, trusting. God's bosom. The Ofudesaki says, this universe, oops, it's my watch here. This universe is the body of God. Ponder this in all matters. All matters. So where are we living? Where are we residing? Who is protecting us? Who is providing for us? Ourselves? Just because we do plant little seeds and do some tilling and weeding and whatever and watering? That's a process, but it's God that is providing the main ingredients where the seeds get the water, get the fertilizer from the land, and then gets it developed in their own plant system and is able to produce the fruit or the vegetables that we want, and has the products inside of it that is healthy for the body, that replenishes the body. So, and it's interesting that this verse, the universe is the body of God, ponder this in all matters, appears twice. Both in part 3, verse 40 and 135. Exactly the same. And it's in the Ofudesaki part 7, page 11. God is trying to remind us that if you want to see God, look at the universe. If you want to see God's protection, think of how, because of the way the earth is made and revolves and has the atmosphere, that even if satellites or what do they call those things? Yeah, what do that?
Meteorites.
Meteors. It just passed me. that because of the atmosphere we have, most of them burn before they hit us. But the one that didn't burn is our moon. It broke a piece out of our earth. And it's interesting. I found out through National Geographic that until then, where the piece of Earth actually got knocked out and started to orbit the Earth, that the Earth was actually wobbly as it spun around. In other words, it wouldn't support our life. We wouldn't be really stable where we are. But because that piece of Earth went to the proper distance and started circling the Earth, it steadied the wobble so that it would no longer wobble, and it was able to produce and maintain life. So God is doing all of this. And we don't even know. But yet, without that, we wouldn't be here. And without God's constant protections and God's truly universal work in everywhere, our life would be much different. Our life would be much more different. And the place that we could find out the most, right inside us. All right? They say the heart just beats by itself. No, it doesn't. It's God causing the beating. So it is for the repairs of all the internal organs, the muscles, the ligaments, even the joints. This is all because God is protecting and providing it for us. So if you want to see God, close your eyes. Listen to all the sounds. And as you do, remember who's allowing you to hear those sounds. Who went and made the ears so that you can hear those sounds? And why did God make two? But we only have one mouth. Little things like that. That's how thoughtful God was when God created our bodies. And in fact, in our creation explanation, where God goes over and sees the fish and goes and says, and calls them. I didn't pay any attention to this part, but God calls these fish and they come. How many times has God called us to go to God's heart and accept His truth? And we haven't. It's that simple. It's that simplicity, that purity of those fish's hearts that God called. So they went. And when they did, God was able to use them as an integral part of the human body. And God was able to find how many? 8 other sea animals to go over there and come. But then He was also able to go over there and put the main body function between male and females into the orc and the turtle. So we have 10. And it's just so working so well. Even when we get sick, we have the mechanism. God has a mechanism to go over there and become well. But it's interesting though. They said if you want to see God, look at the wonders that are going on in the universe and within our own bodies. And you will see and feel God. And when God created, I didn't realize this, but I'd have to ask somebody who's really studied world religions and all. But I read somewhere where, as far as the Tenrikyo teachings are concerned, the presentation of the teachings of human creation, God is the only one that explains the purpose of why God created people. And it's a very simple reason. He wanted to see us live a joyous life. Here on earth, with the human body, with the 8 dusts, and the struggles that we have. That is our divine parent. And up until now, I've always been using the term God the parent, the parent. That's the one that's really the only parent that's there. But lately, I've been thinking about that. I say, "Mom, that doesn't make it sound very personal." I don't feel that warmth that's being expressed. And lately, I've been using the term God, our parent, because God is the one who created us. God is the one who protects us. God is the one who provides for all human beings, for all living things. And I thought, if I say our, then it makes it more personal. And if you look at how God with all deities have been presented way in the early times, in Greek theology and everything, the gods are rulers. And they have their faults. But you never hear that why they created human beings, why they create man. And they try to give an explanation, but it's not as clear as God the parent. So, along with you, this ends my sermon, but it's really the beginning of using the teachings in our lives. And the only message that I have is that God is looking for yobokus, good trees, to be shaped into useful instruments to bring joy and happiness to people who are not joyous and happiness, and to give them a reason why they should be joyous and happy. And God gave us these teachings. God gave us this book. So we could become that. A useful yoboku, which God is hoping for and waiting for. So, with this, it ends my sermon for June. And otagaini, let's help each other become useful timber. Thank you very much.